No one is reading your emails. I'll tell you that again. Nobody reads your emails. Now, that is not good if you want to use email to reach out to your prospects and maybe book meetings and maybe hit quota, maybe build some pipeline, things like that, business growth. You know the type of drill. Not good. But I have a few things for you to keep in mind which might help you this year, especially with all of the noise about how email is going to change, how it's apparently dead. All of the providers have changed everything and we're not sure what to do. I'll bring some clarity to that. Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Ollie. I'm with VanillaSoft. I also have my good friend Sean at the end of the show, who is also on our team. He happens to be our sales leader who talks about email all day long. So he'll come with some pretty interesting perspectives and ideas for you. And then in the middle, because you don't want to just listen to me all day, we've broken up the show with my friend Michael Hansen. He's going to come on and he helps write cadences and emails with different tactics for companies just like yours all around the world, but predominantly in the UK and North America. So, what's the plan for this? I'm going to talk for a few minutes. I'm not going to have any examples because I think, to be honest, at this stage, we're talking hypothetically. There's going to be changes to the way the email works. And it's kind of, there's no point in me showing you something which in a couple of weeks you may have to rethink. You're going to have to come up with new content, new angles, new ways of doing things, and probably new processes on your end. So I'm not going to show you any examples. It's going to be food for thought, which you can take away and then apply. I'm showing you a menu, not the ingredients. And then we're going to do the same with Michael. I don't actually know what his tactic he's going to talk to you about is. And Sean's, I know what his is, and we're probably going to have an argument. So stay tuned for that. So let's start with me. Everybody talks about the standard stuff that you do with the same email. So it would normally be, let's say you scroll through your LinkedIn or you listen to a podcast maybe. You'll hear the body of the text should be only a certain number of words. So maybe it's like 75 words, something like that. You'll hear it's maybe only 3 or 4 lines. So that's the length. Then you always hit a short subject line. That's nearly always the first thing that people say. What else? Personalize the thing at the start. Maybe have one call to action is one thing that you'll hear. What else? I'm trying to think of the very standard advice that you've heard a zillion times. To be honest, I should have a list of 50 rather than 4 there. But I think you get the drill. So what do I think is going to be a good idea for you to consider moving forward? Now take this with a pinch of salt and do it in your own way. You may not have the ingredients or the tools to do all of this right now, but you'll be able to, and it's worth an experiment. So as email changes, as these new as these new regulations, as these changes come into place, what can you do? I'm suggesting we bring back the everything email. Now I probably could have given it a better name, but I like alliteration, so the EE works. The everything email. What on earth is that? I find it quite difficult to read emails at times when they've said 2 or 3 different things. But that's because they're not trying to give me 2 or 3 different things. They're trying to do one email and follow up several times. And then they run out of things to say because they've used too many things too early on. Let's totally switch on that and go the polar opposite direction. Instead of giving 2 or 3 points, it could be, for example, I didn't describe that too well. Let's think about they've attached a report, they have mentioned a statistic, they've asked me a question, and made a statement about my industry or my role, all in the same email. It could be, hey Ollie, lots of marketers like you are looking to increase leads, statement, asking me a question about lead flow at my company, question attached a report about our company that they've done proprietarily. That's one thing, and so on. They could have done all of those things in one email. You might say, well, that's a lot, like probably not the best for conversion. It's what one do I do? Do I disagree with the statement? Do I look at the report? Do I reply to the question? I don't know, too much. Now, the only reason I say that's wrong is because it's confusing, and then we know that they're going to follow up. They haven't given us the everything. They've given us the taster in lots of different styles and ways. That's the problem. So on the flip side, what we can do to our top tier accounts, to our perfect prospects, to the people we really, really, really want to get in touch with, and we have a great reason to do so. Lots of research that backs up the points and lots of trigger events and so on, which helps us connect the dots. It's not just, hi, are you in the market for what I do? That's the opposite. let's just give them everything off the rip rather than following up 22 times, because much as we do know and the data suggests it does, that following up is the secret to how you win a deal. But I think that the way that these email changes are coming in, it maybe suggests that slightly less volume is good. And when people see a small change like this, the overreaction is like this. It's crazily overhyped. So people tend to adjust their behaviors and their preferences, their thoughts, the way that they want to work. And I think people are starting to think, I don't want to see that 16th email. I'd rather get it all kind of in one big chunk. And if it takes me 3 minutes to read the email, oh my God, what will I do? I've only got 7 hours and 57 minutes left in my day. So I'm thinking, let's try that. Instead, let's say question at the start or an illumination question. Let's say, to pick up back on the example I made a moment ago, the question about what would a marketer like me be looking for. Maybe you have a rhetorical question, a little bit, something to suggest that a popular held belief might not be right. And that's research based on my job, because if I'm CEO, it's a different question based on if I'm marketing. So something like that, a rhetorical question. Maybe the one example that comes to mind very well is in COVID, HubSpot had a live reports dashboard. And if I remember correctly, they had lots and lots of different metrics based on the Sales Hub users that they have on the platform. And it would say things like meetings booked via email as a channel. And it would say, it's up 15% this month as opposed to last month, but cold calling meetings are down 23%, but the number of calls are up 51%, and all of those kind of stats. So they were able to see the data and then pick out interesting statements and pieces that they found in it and use that as a food for thought piece at the top. So illuminating something which is kind of counterintuitive. You might think, that's interesting. And then to go on from there, maybe you append. We're not on Excel. Maybe you attach the report, the whole report, so that you can back it up and say, the report is below, just in case you want to check the stats, or if you think there's anything else you want to look at in there. And then from there, maybe you have the customer testimonial, who is also in your similar market of the prospect. I always talk about, sorry to pick on them again, but Gong and LeadIQ. They're not competitors to us at all, though Gong has launched something kind of similar. But I know people in both of those companies, both sales tech, and slightly different sizes, I guess you could say, slightly different markets, I guess you could say, but within the kind of bubble. They don't have to do exactly what we do. They don't have the exact same number of people as we do, but close enough. It's not like saying HP and Oracle. Totally different. The social proof doesn't actually work or count at all for that. So something like that. If you can also say after that report attachment, companies like Gong and LeadIQ use us, and they've achieved a similar result with that misconception linked to the above point. Then from there, what else could I attach? What else could I say? I could ask another question. I could maybe point to a decision maker who I think might be looking for it. I could ask for a timing of when a decision or a budget piece might be made available. Now, I'm kind of forgetting some things. There'll be things which are contextual to you. There'll be things that I haven't thought of that other reps in other markets will see and be commonly using. But going with absolutely everything up front could be the way. Now, I think back to, and we'll have to kind of find the clip. I'd love to resurface it. One of the best emails that I've seen written is from a lady called Jen Allen, who's now doing her own thing. She would have to get her back on. Actually, she's very good. She has a whole template of how she reaches out to her very high level senior decision makers. And one of the key things that she would do, she would wait for a trigger event like a press release or a funding round or insert thing like that. She'd read the press release and she'd copy and paste text out from the CEO or from the insert person, and she would use that, and the email would end up being quite long because of these excerpts she's pasting back in. But she's literally using their words, and to say, you said that, copy and paste in quote marks. What's step one on the way to doing that? I have seen with company, and quote alike. This is step one. This is step three. Problem rises at step two. This is the bit that I do to help you negate that problem, etc. So that's quite a long email, and it gives them a lot in one go. I'm suggesting maybe we can do something like that with more mediums, a bit more of a long story, kind of an S curve rather than a straight line linear. Problem, do this, book call, because that's what every email in the world is doing at the moment, anyways. So that is me for now. Now I'd like to bring on my good friend Michael Hansen and see what he's got to offer me. So, mate, welcome back. It's been a while. I don't actually remember the last thing we did with you, but it's nearly always email with you. So good timing to bring you back. Lots of stuff going on with the email changes. What are you recommending? What is Growth Genie recommending for reps to do to try and stand out a little bit with their emails this year?
Yeah, I think this isn't just for email, but just in general. Obviously, the rise of tools like ChatGPT, right, means inboxes are flooded more than ever. I think already this has been a problem for 4 or 5 years because you had the old automation problem, right? With a tool like VanillaSoft is great, but these sales tools, it means like people can send these mass emails, right? So that was already a problem. Now you've got AI in the mix. So AI can make personalized emails. I don't think AI can make good personalized emails yet, but people are just using AI, being lazy. So how can you stand out as a seller? You can stand out by being human, because the one thing a robot is, whether it's automation or AI, is they're not human, right? Okay, so how can you make yourself more human, both from a buyer and a seller perspective? And for me, that's emotion. The things that robots don't have is the emotion that we all have as humans. And we've got this framework at Growth Genie called Cosmic, and it's essentially, yes, all your buyers will have, you need to have some type of ROI chart or some type of economic impact, right? We're all in business, and you need the figure and the data, and the CFO is going to look at your deal and all that good stuff, right? That's taken for granted. But what's not talked about is every individual you're reaching out to is a human, right? With human needs. So I can say to you, Ollie, like from an emotional level, that marketers hate it when the sales team thinks you just make fluffy PowerPoints and you do these stupid webinars and it doesn't lead to revenue, right? That's like an emotional problem. So that's that's obviously an example for marketers. We can come up with any of this stuff, because sometimes we have like clients that are fintechs. We're like, oh, we sell to accountants, we sell to like CFOs. They don't have a soul. Like everyone's got a soul, right? So yeah, it's connecting with them more on that like emotional level. And then, yeah, perhaps that's like a very broad overview, but yeah, perhaps we can get a little bit more like tactical now in terms of how you do that. Oh.
Okay, cool. So broad strokes, I've always found that people, you've got two options really. In the most part, you can kind of go down the middle, but selling the dream or positive emotion, or you can sell against pain, negative emotion. Probably pain is easier, just because like it's so easy to say this happened today and that really annoyed me. That comes off the tongue a lot quicker than this was really good. It just, for some reason, people have that focus on what could be better and what could improve. So that's probably the most straightforward. But have you found there's a better one, or is it kind of both, and then you go into how?
Yeah, I think it's the order, right? So I think the negative emotions always got to come first, because people will initially be interested because of pain, right? It's like, imagine you're buying running trainers, like you're going to run a marathon or something. You're going to switch because the ones you're currently using, they're giving you an injury, right? Or they've got a hole in them or whatever. There's some type of problem with those shoes, and then you buy new ones. So yeah, you've always got to start with the pain side of things. And then, yeah, maybe we can break it down step by step. So I know, as you said, everyone says it's not rocket science now. When you write an email, do your research on the other person, show some type of observation trait or whatever you want to call it. But again, even in that case, if you're like looking at someone's LinkedIn or you're looking at a company report, think of the thing that's the most human in there. Because often what I see is, say I'm training someone, SDRA, whoever it is, and they'll be like, oh yeah, saw on LinkedIn you're interested in customer experience. And I'm like, they've only put that because they're not even really sure what to put on their LinkedIn. They're using a boring CV. So I was like, don't write that, because that's not really about them. That's almost, they've just copied and pasted it. Whereas if they've got something like we were talking about before, you went to see Ronaldinho in the new camp and you were like 9, right? That's a really emotional experience. That's something I definitely tie into. And then from there, maybe you got their attention. But again, you don't just do a generic sales pitch after that. You've got to go into, again, some type of problem that's relevant to you. Because that's, I think, the big mistake with... sorry, I don't know if you can hear there's an ambulance going behind me.
Live TV happens.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but then the big problem people make in emails, hey, Ollie, yeah, I saw you watch Ronaldinho. He did that thing on his back. You did the post about it in the new camp. Oh, by the way, here's my product. Like, will you buy it? Will you have a meeting with me? So you don't want to do that. And then you got to think, okay, I've tried to connect with them on a personal level. What's some type of business challenge? Ollie may be having. And that's where maybe I'd go into, hey, Ollie, I saw you do these really good webinars and you get really great guests and all these people. But something I found is often the sales team don't understand marketing and they're just thinking you're doing these fluffy webinars and the leads are a waste of time and they're following up in a wrong way. And that's that emotional piece right there. So yeah, that's kind of how I would start an email.
So you trying to pin where you add the emotional bit. It's kind of the knit between like your first bit, the personalized bit, and then the business case piece. That's the gap that you've got to try and fill. Are you pinning it on what you're believing I feel and what other clients, customers, people in the industry feel to resonate, or are you trying to
Yes.
illuminate something? Because there's illumination questions are good. It's all about how well you know the persona though. Because if you're selling to, using your example,
Yeah.
the accountants in the room, technical thing, I can't even go near numbers in accounting because it's just way out my league. So
Yeah.
unless I know
Yeah.
the persona and their process and the things well and problems, I wouldn't even go near that because I'll get that wrong. But you could do that. So you trying to do something that you know and they know, or are you trying to illuminate?
I think you can still you can illuminate a pain which is related to something that you know is common in the industry. And again, you maybe listen to this webinar and you'd be like, I'm really new. Let's take the accounting example. I'm new in fintech. I've never sold to accountants before. I was working in like sales tech before. What you want to be doing is one, speaking to your colleagues and two, actually interviewing accountants and speaking to them. And like, forgive my language here, but ask what really pisses you off, right? What really annoys you as an accountant? And then when you start hearing the same thing over and over again, that's your really juicy pain that you want to answer. I'm in a fortunate position, same as you, Ollie, that I've been selling to sales and marketing leaders for years now. So because I'm having every single time I have a sales conversation, I'm actually also using that as research as well, right? So every sales conversation is actually like market research with what's happening. So when I'm hearing these emotional pains over and over, that's something I'm using. I can give you an example. One of the big things I know like really destroys like chief revenue officers, VPs of sales is when a top performer leaves, right? Because that's like a big chunk of revenue that's going. And the other thing with what I'm talking about, just going to talk about emotional pain, I'm not saying don't ever include numbers or statistics. That's still good. And you can actually do both at the same time. You can actually have a quantifiable statistic about an emotional pain. So I think we've got one that like, I think on average, 33% of SDRs don't last more than a year in their role, either because they don't like the job, they're fired, or they move on, whatever it is, right? So that's kind of an emotional pain about churn, but it's also got a statistic on it as well. So you can actually, if you can find a statistic about something that actually has like an emotional impact, that's really effective.
So you try and do it about what I heard in that example is you're trying to add some add a bit of zest to the statement rather than to say, and this happens afterwards if you don't fix it. Because that's the way I often
Yes.
see it. It's
Yeah.
always something like accountants always have this problem, and what they don't know is if they don't fix it, it trebles in pain. Like that was horrendous, but you get the picture. You're
Yeah.
trying to say it really upsets you, and it's this much worse. So it's like numerically it's worth fixing, but also emotionally you kind of want to anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I think, everyone, the last bit in terms of the solution, which we talked about, your research or some type of emotion, like the more emotional bit of research you can get, the better. Same with the pain point. And then afterwards, you got your solution, which is your offer, right? What do you want to offer? I think now more than ever, everyone says give value, right? Well, how do you give value? How you don't give value is by saying, hey, do you want 15 minutes? Everyone's talked about that, right? Even saying, hey, do you want to learn about my product or my case study, whatever it is? So again, going back to the marketing piece, I'm very fortunate in that I've got a lot of marketing background as well as sales, right? And I think even things like posting on LinkedIn, essentially you're being a marketer when you're doing things like that. So I'm always thinking, what content do I have that is useful for my buyer based on a discovery call I've had or based on the research that I've done with my buyer? And you give away some type of content, right? So I think the best salespeople now, they're also thinking like content marketers. And instead of saying, hey, you've got this emotional pain, whether that's related to you're a marketer, the sales team are treating you like shit, or you're a sales leader and your staff are leaving, what's a piece of content that can help with that? Maybe for the sales leader, it's, oh, here's a career path that can help your SDRs, stay longer at the company and like flourish in their roles, right? Or with your market say I'm selling to you, oh, here's a structure of how you can run your sales and marketing alignment meetings, right? So rather than saying, hey, let me teach you how we do sales training, I haven't earned the right to do that. So like some piece of content, that's a big thing we're talking about with sellers now is get very familiar with all the marketing content that you have. And then depending on the problems you're hearing, you can offer bits of content. And the last thing on this is a lot of salespeople make the excuse, oh, our marketing content is rubbish. Sometimes that's not true. They haven't even looked at the marketing content. Sometimes it is true. They don't have someone like you, Ollie, that's like making all these great webinars. And so
you can come back. You can.
So see what I'm doing? I'm connecting with you here on that emotion level. But the other side of it is actually you don't need internal content. There's no excuse not to share content because you can share third-party content, and sometimes that's actually more credible. So I used to, in my old company, the Bridge Group, who's funny enough now a competitor of ours that I do consultancy, they do these really good reports on like SDR and AE metrics. And I used to, when I was at my old company, CloudTask, I used to share those reports and people would absolutely love them. And it wasn't CloudTask content, but that content was more interesting than the content I had at the time at my old company. So that's what I share.
Yeah, I would often do, I mentioned a moment ago, the HubSpot stuff, or the only thing is it has to be a respectable resource. So if, isn't the Bridge Trish, basically? So everyone knows Trish,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So therefore brand is the same. But if it's like, you can do it if it's your own or third party and it's not the Salesforce's, for example, but it's just got to be credible in some way that it's believable. Otherwise, it's just, like, I don't care. But often like I mentioned, in the COVID times, I got sent the HubSpot dashboard report all the time, because it would say stuff like, this month compared to last month, calling is down from HubSpot users using the Sales Hub, but emailing is up, but meetings booked from email is plateauing slowly, but meetings booked from calling is up because the calling is down. So that sort of, if you look at it and you pick it out, my cat's very interested in this. Interesting. Whether I said it or not, whether company related or not, poses back to your question what else you say in the email.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally. Okay, cool. So final thing before I let you jump, help us negate some bad practices of been doing this. I'm going to give you one and I'll see what else you come up with. So you can't get this wrong. You can't get your assumptions wrong because just flat out isn't going to work anyway. But you can't add too much extra emotion on what you're trying to say. So for instance, what really upsets you as a marketer type of thing, you can't, I dramatize personally, I exaggerate. You can't say like, doesn't it leave you writhing in agony so much that you need a paracetamol every 20 minutes? It's too far, like, especially if you get it minutely wrong, you just look like a clown. What else can go wrong when we're trying to add some more flavor and emotion into the emails that we write?
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually, that you can go too far. I think with the personal stuff as well, I wouldn't be creepy, right? So go on Instagram and be like, oh, enjoyed this picture on the beach, or whatever it is you don't want to be creepy in that way.
I hope you enjoyed Greece in 2009.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is a good, I would say LinkedIn and Twitter, they're probably more business type places. Once you get into Instagram and other stuff, it can can get a little bit weird. So that's first thing. There's probably a line of things there's a line you have to be careful with between personal and business. You don't want to cross that line. That's definitely one. And then I think as well, you made a thing about assumptions there. Assumptions is a really good point. Lavender of that study around using assumptive language decreases your reply rate. So when you're talking about pain, even though I said to you, hey, when the sales team don't appreciate your content, that makes you feel like shit, right? That may happen, but there may be an incredible relationship between the marketing and sales team. So I say may, and that also gives someone the right to say, oh, actually, I've got a really good relationship with my sales team, right? So I think using non-assumptive language is really important, because at the end of the day, when you're doing a cold email and you don't know these people, you can only guess the pains, right? So acknowledge and say, look, I don't know, but I think this may be a problem for you.
Yeah, the only challenge you can run into a little bit with that, one way that people try and say this, which is a little bit too for me, is they say, when I talk to sales leaders like yourself, it's just do you really talk to that many sales leaders exactly like me? And it's just I feel like it's an attempt of credit.
You don't need to say it.
It's like a social proofing. I talk to high-brow people, And they say this, but yeah, like you can read it. You don't need to talk to them. You can have clients. You don't need to. It's a bit unnecessary, and it's a way of saying that just done wrong.
Yeah, there's a thing called like show versus tell. So when you're doing that, you're telling, whereas you could be showing your industry expertise and being like, it's an absolute pain in the ass when your top performer leaves, right? And then it's showing that you've got that sales expertise, because that is generally a pain. And that I think even some of these pains as well, even if they don't have them, it'd be like, because this happens to me all the time. When I'm doing a discovery or an email, I'll be like, look, great email. That was a pain for me. I really resonated with that, but that was like 18 months ago. It's not a big pain point for me anymore, right? And at that point, maybe you got a response. You can start a conversation around it. So I think that's the other thing on email. The goal of an email is to get someone to reply so you can start a conversation. The goal of an email is not to book a meeting, because actually if you book a meeting with someone that's unqualified, then it's a waste of time.
Totally. Okay, mate. Great stuff as usual. I will have to have you back, compliments aside. But before you jump and before I bring on Sean, where can people find out about what you do and maybe the Cosmic Framework? Was it? Did I get the name right?
Yeah. I can. So firstly, connect with me on LinkedIn, Michael Hansen Growth Genie. In my featured section, we got like the video about the Cosmic Framework. I also have a podcast called The Cosmic Bridge, where we do have sales leaders on, but we talk about other stuff around like mindset and psychology. And yeah, if you want to learn more about like our sales consulting services, it's growthgenie.co. So yeah, a few ways to get in touch.
Legend. Okay, mate. Thanks very much. And unfortunately, I've got to bring out Sean Finder next. So let's bring him up. All right, so here he is. He could have done his hair for me, but he chose not to. What's up, dude? How are you? It's been a while.
Oh, it has been a while. It's been a while since our podcast days and connecting every week. How are you doing, Ollie?
Life's good. So I'm picking up straight away on your background. There's no dusty Peloton.
Nope.
Where are you?
I'm actually working from another house for the time being, as the little ones are growing up in that home. Having two kids under two can be a little loud household. So trying to make sure I stay focused and productive. So I found a little workspace here.
Fair enough. So let's cut to it. Last 15 minutes. We couldn't find anyone else, so we just thought we'd ask you. I'm obviously kidding. So this year, there's a lot of talk about how email is going to change. Obviously, you know a lot about that. We've talked about it a bunch.
Yep.
So at this point, it's not yet coming. It's very, very close. Stories change a few times. People have kind of massively overacted, as with usual with this type of thing. It's, oh my God, cold calling's dead, email's dead, whatever. Anytime one thing happens. So a lot more scrutiny on email this year. A lot of tactics that have been used for quite a long time. The kind of meta has stayed very much the same for a few years now. What can we do differently? So we were talking before about how to try it and at least experiment with doing almost the opposite of what people say. So what comes to mind? What have you been thinking about? What have our team been thinking about?
Well, I think, when they say there's so many people sending emails and emails are getting saturated and just cold emails, you just got to be able to stand out. You got to think of an out of the box approach that other people might not be thinking. So the way I like to do it is I like to say, okay, what does everyone tell you to do and how to write an email? They all tell you to write this email the exact same way. Do this, don't do this. So what I'm thinking is you do something completely opposite. And I know one person, actually, when we can jump right into it, one person that I work with for some of my investments, and he does something very interesting on his emails, and it always stands out. I don't even think I've told you this one, Ollie. Are you ready?
How dare you? Like, normally I don't prepare you, not the other way around. Please, you tell me.
He writes his entire email in caps lock.
In caps?
In caps, the entire email.
Okay. Why is that? For the shock factor?
I mean, he's actually just he's an elderly guy, and he's been doing it for years. He's not doing it for any particular reason. He's just always done it. And let me tell you, when he writes you, I know he's writing me. I know it's not a machine or a bot or ChatGPT. Someone, I know he's actually writing it. And it might be one sentence, two sentences, three sentences, but he does everything in caps. And his signature's in caps, the subject line's in caps. So it's not like he's making a mistake. He's doing it on purpose. And what that shows me is he actually wrote the email. And I think that's something that I've only seen one person do, which is him. So you stand out, compared to all the rest of the noise of people sending emails.
Okay. I was not expecting that. So if you try to do your own thing of that, there's only a certain number of ways you could do it. You could have small text size, big text size, all caps, no caps, insert, there's a few things. Is that for you about that's him? That's his brand. Once you see that once and you see it again, that's him. That's the thing, or is it just that it's different?
So funny enough, you said it. So I go to him for advice on certain investments I'm going to do. And funny enough, I was with my high school friend and I introduced them. And then we were out, this is about a month ago, having drinks. And he goes, do you ever message Norman? He just replies with caps. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I think that's just his thing. So he's probably not doing it intentional. But at the same time, we are all like, that's Norman brand. So when we get those emails and we see an email coming with just caps, I don't even have to look at the subject, the person's name, the sender's name. I'm like, oh, Norman's sending me an email about something. So I do believe, like you just said, it's become his personal brand. Now he's probably in his 60s or 70s. So he's not doing this on purpose for any reason for somebody to reply and get click-through rates or delivery. He's not doing any of that. This is just him. And he's probably known industry-wide for doing this exact same thing.
Probably, yeah. That's a good point. So I would say, actually, if you try to just do the opposite of that, if you just use lowercase, I think it wouldn't actually be different. I think it's easier to spoof or to AI lowercase than it is to do that, because it's just a bit, for some reason, it's just a bit different. Text files are all lowercase and no punctuation, so that would be. But what about, so oftentimes people say email should be very short. I think a lot of the times people add filler. Even so, the main point they want is like a few words. Yeah. So I would imagine just the way that you said that, he's probably very direct. If it's a couple sentences, it's probably, Sean, did you sign it yet? Making something up. There's no like, I was just wondering if you had the chance to da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't mean to be rude either. It's just punctual. So that could be a style. What else are you thinking?
It's just, it's funny you just said it. It's exactly that. It's like, I'll be like, can you meet for coffee next Tuesday? It won't be like, yeah, no problem, I'll see you then. He's like, works. Like, just straight to it, or yep. Like, so there's no messing around. It's all straight to the point, and direct. But that's just his way. And I don't think he's doing it to, disrespect you, disrespect your time. It's just, that's his personality. It's, no bullshit. Like, I'm just going to reply and get it done.
I like it. I can see you doing that. That's very you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been told, and sometimes that when I'm writing too many emails, I'm too busy. My grammatical does not come out in my emails. Sometimes I'll do, instead of YOU for you, I'll just do a U. Just certain things like that, because funny enough, I was getting told by our CEO the other day, how do you have 197,000 emails in your inbox, Sean? It's like,
that's absurd.
And it's right at the top screen. I actually lowered that down to 60K a few days ago, but it's just, I don't have time to write paragraph emails to provide. So for me, I just want to get my point across.
Yeah, anytime our product goes down, it's because you are using the server so much with your inbox. But okay, I like it. So on that flavor of using the letter U and things like that, I do that quite often in how I talk. I don't mean to be informal. I don't mean to be that there is a level. You can't use acronyms nobody's heard of, but everyone knows you. There's a bunch of things like that. No one does that in an email, particularly the people they haven't met. There's definitely a place of it's acceptable reaching out to the similar generation, I guess. It's probably not okay if, for instance, your buddy, if he's the CEO of a bigger company, I don't do that to him. Wrong audience, I think. But seen anybody do that?
I have. I mean, I don't know. I'm indifferent about that. I feel like even if I'm messaging a CEO or someone, like I hear a lot of people that read emails and then they spell check it, grammar check it, they make sure it's perfect. In real life, nothing's perfect. People are going to make spelling mistakes. People are going to make errors because everyone's very busy. So I look at it like everyone tries to perfect the perfect email. I don't want to make one mistake because I'm emailing the decision maker. But at the same time, they're going to make a mistake on email. Every email I got, I've seen errors. I've seen numbers that people are talking about. Instead of putting, it was funny the other day. I was doing the compensation plan, and I was supposed to give somebody a quota for an account. It was 240,000, and in the email,
4 mil.
I put 240 million. And do you know it was looked at by two people above me, one person below me, and not one person caught it. So I think people understand they're paying attention to detail, etc. But that person, I ended up changing that, so it is only 240,000 out, 240 million now, though.
I'll make you a deal. I will come and be on your sales team. You can do whatever you want to me. The quota is 240 USD a year. Sign off on it. One time.
240 USD. You're not going to put a K or an M or a few extra zeros there or nothing?
No, you'll miss it. So just sign off. Comp 100%. Salary included.
Yeah. So the other one I was going to I see a lot is how many links and calls to action. Like, how many times have you heard we'll only have one call to action? And then you also you send your calendar link, and I've gotten replies from people like, that's not personal to me. I don't just click on somebody's calendar and book a meeting. And then you have other people that say, oh, that's the only way I like to do it. So, what do you think about just being a little different and just here's my phone number, my email, my WhatsApp, my Telegram, my Facebook, my
the
X.
WhatsApp's quite a good shout. I don't know if I was talking to someone about this the other day. In Europe, it's everyone has WhatsApp. It's like saying, do you have Facebook? Everyone's got it. I don't know if everyone uses the messenger on it or not, but It seems, I know you have it. I know loads of North Americans who have it. I don't know if it's that as well spread. So maybe, I don't know if you guys use something else, but whatever. Or, pick a time for a FaceTime.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or something like that is different. A lot of the time as well, I think we're obsessed with like processes I get on a Zoom. But the amount of times, most of the deals I've ever sold, albeit not as that many because I'm a marketer, but I've still sold some. A lot of the times, I got a CMO in an airport as he walked onto a plane on the phone. I was never getting him on a Zoom.
Yeah.
I wasn't. It was a CMO of a 12,000 person company. No chance. So I had to go with it. And I did, as you said, I had a very formulaic, lovely, grammatically perfect email. His reply was like, yes, call me, and his number. So like, he's not going, oh, his comma was wrong or his colon was in the wrong place. I think maybe the Calendly, sure, if you built enough credentials to say book with me, cool. Or some people might just find it easier rather than replying, sure. But maybe experimenting with, I'm fine, I can call you whenever you reply, or we can do a WhatsApp call, or we can FaceTime really quick to talk about it, or something different, maybe a novelty, but maybe it works. I take WhatsApp calls for clients if they're abroad and it's just easier than calling them, or if we're away from the desk, why not?
And you make a good point. I mean, I wonder, like, you don't want to get a call, be like, hey, let me just FaceTime you. Like, let's not jump onto Zoom. Let's not jump onto somewhere. Like, my phone's, everyone has their phone beside them. They probably have their phone more beside them than they do with their laptop. So if you say, let's have a FaceTime, yeah, I mean, listen, using different approaches, I always say it's like throwing darts. You don't need every single one. You can throw 3 darts and 1 sticks, and you've hit the bullseye. So I think doing different things like that, but the FaceTime thing is an interesting angle.
I wouldn't do it cold, but I'm quite interested. My last question before I let you go: how would you FaceTime someone? I know you've got that Nokia thing from the 80s that you could roll over a tank and it wouldn't blow up. How do you FaceTime on that?
On this beast?
Oh, okay, cool. You upgraded it this week. Nice.
Yeah. No, it's I got the big screen, and the FaceTime usually works, and it's a more personal way of doing it. And to be honest, if you're really trying to get a hold of somebody right away, I mean, you could set up a Zoom, send them the link, send them the calendar, and be like, hey, let's just jump on a FaceTime quick. It's a lot quicker.
Yeah, swap numbers, hit the call, do the call, get off the call. Doesn't have to be half-hour calendar invite.
Oh, yeah, the whole
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally with you. Okay, dude. Well, good stuff. Thanks for coming on as usual. Nice to see you again. It's been a bit. We'll have to have you back on and get you to talk about something else, put you under the pressure and see what you come up with. But before you jump, where can people find more about you if they want to send you a message or spam you or whatever else?
So I'm always on LinkedIn. So if you have anything or you want anything, message me on LinkedIn. Post a lot of content as well. So LinkedIn is probably the best. If you want to email me, sean.finder@vanillasoft.com. But I would say LinkedIn is the best way to find me.
Me too. And with that, everyone, thanks very much for listening. If you made it this far, congratulations. Great attention span, much better than my own. I say that every time because it's still true. I'm working on it. And obviously, you can send the recording of this to anybody you'd like. Connect with me, Sean, Michael, ask us questions if you want to. All good. We're here to help. And like I said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.